Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'm good. I just finished my quarantine. I just got back to Toronto like 2 weeks ago. Well, today was my last day. What about you?
Okay, what do you to celebrate? Take a walk,
Oh, I
take a
walked
jog.
outside. I have an activity today to go to the supermarket for me to just stroll
Nice,
around.
nice. Nice.
What about you? How's Montreal?
It's okay. I got here a little under 2 weeks ago. I'm still in quarantine, but we're out here living through living day
We're
by day.
living.
I guess we'll jump.
Okay, so let's just jump into the questions.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want
Okay,
to first?
yeah. Okay, so when we first met, which was how many years ago? Like, I want to say we were 8 years old. So that was like 17 years ago.
Mhm.
Uh, do you remember how we first met?
I remember it was school. I don't remember the context exactly. I mean, you were just a new kid, you were the new kid, you were super pretty, super smiley, like you still are. That's what I remember. And we weren't really friends at the beginning.
Oh
At
no, we were straight up enemies. Like, what do you mean?
sugarcoat it. Yeah, we didn't really like each other at the beginning, and then I think you went to Dubai at one point, right? For like a couple of
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
hmm
yeah.
And then when you
No,
came back, we were teenagers at that point, and yeah, then we were friends. Like we became friends pretty quickly.
I remember my first
Mhm.
encounter with you was on those that hill where we all had our like tribes, and I saw
Mhm.
you there, and you're just like walking around. I'm like, "Ah, I don't like that girl," even though I didn't know you, but
Oh yeah.
I just didn't like you because I'm like, ah, she's like, she has her own tribe, and I was like the new kid. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm gonna be part of this.
It's like that sometimes. You just make snap judgments about people, but I mean, it worked out.
We were 8.
I know you have no reason to make snap judgments, but
How would you describe your relationship to the land of Palestine? What are some ways you would describe the feeling of living so close to the physical yet mostly inaccessible place?
no, it's just I know we feel the same about this in that we both grew up in Jordan, so I mean, it was right there for us to go visit at all times, but we never really made that trip for personal reasons. But I think we're on the same page in that we both do want to visit Palestine soon because we are in a phase in our lives where we're reconnecting kind of with our roots and seeking more answers. Um,
Yeah.
so for me, at least, like I know I'm planning a trip out there really soon because I think just the impact that being there physically is going to have on me is unlike anything I can imagine right now, unlike anything I can try to sit down and learn or. Yeah, what about you though?
Honestly, like for me, it was more of like I wasn't able to actually go to Palestine. So
Mhm.
all my family would go, and I'd be left in Jordan or left in Dubai or whatever it was because I literally couldn't enter the country. Because
Because you
like with a Jordanian passport, like you need like certain documentation and stuff that I didn't have. So I just was never able to actually go. But I am gonna try go hopefully if maybe in the summer if like everything settles down, but it doesn't seem like it will. Because now I'm actually able to go. So I don't know. Hopefully the next opportunity, I guess, like I do want to go. And it's kind of crazy because like I swear anywhere I go, like and I tell someone, oh, I'm Palestinian, or like whatever it is, they're like, oh, have you ever been there?
Mhm.
How's the situation there? I'm like, actually, I've actually never been there.
Yeah,
So
right.
like it's
Kind
like it's ridiculous. Like I want to go there, like, and it feels weird saying that you're from somewhere that you've never even stepped foot in, like a land you've never even touched the sand, you've never touched the rocks, you've never like nothing.
but yeah, I mean, I used to beat myself up about it, in a way, like be like, how can I call myself Palestinian if I've never even ventured out there? But now I try not to do that so much, you know what I mean? Like I understand that things aren't black and white, but definitely still, yeah, like it is super important for us to go out there with
No, of course, like my stepmom, the first time she went to Palestine was a few years ago, and it changed her whole life. Like it changed everything for her. And like I'm hoping like I could go there and identify myself, and find myself.
sure.
I feel like a lot of Palestinians that haven't been to Palestine yet we have an identity crisis. Like it's straight up like we have an identity crisis. It's horrible, but like I think eventually we will all like reconnect with our land, if you get what I mean. Like it just takes a lot of effort, but there's a lot of like passport things that also like come into like hands. Like I have a lot of family that live in Nablus in Palestine, and the only way for me to see them is if they go to Jordan or if they go to Dubai. But like I've never even seen the house my grandpa grew up in. I've never seen the house my grandma grew up in. Nothing, you know, like, so it's like a.
So how does your community in Canada differ from the one that you have in Jordan?
Oh, it's huge difference. Huge difference. Like in Jordan, like they acknowledge, like most Jordanians are from Palestine. So I think in Jordan it's very, it's spoken about, it's there, it's known, it's you meet someone, they instantly know you're Palestinian, it's not even a thought in your head. But then in Toronto and in Switzerland, it was kind of like you had to have a backstory to everything you're saying, and like people don't not بيعترفوا by the country, But in Jordan, it's so like in sync with, like we're all in the same boat in Jordan. No one in Toronto is in the same boat. It's a completely different country. Like people here, it's so diverse. In Jordan, it's literally Palestinians with a percentage of Jordanians. Like it's
friends who are not Palestinian, I feel like just understand the situation for us Palestinians better. You know what I mean? Like having grown up in Jordan and being surrounded by essentially refugees as we are. Their whole lives, like they just understand it better, Palestinian identity.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like since I was a kid, like it was like Palestine, like it was always like, where are you from? Palestine, like it was never in my head that I think to say something else. Exactly. Like I even grew up in Dubai, like in my time in Dubai, like I would always say I'm Palestinian. Like I never had any doubt in that. But I do remember some of my brothers that would go to school sometimes, and like if they were like new, because they moved to schools quite a lot when they were new and stuff, they didn't know how to say they were Palestinian in that sense, and they'd come back home and they're like, Hana, like when people ask you where you're from, what do you say? I'm like, oh, Palestine. Like, what do you guys mean? They're like, I don't know. Like sometimes we say we're from here, sometimes we say like we're from like blah 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 or like whatever country. I'm like, guys, like you're Palestinian. Like, show that off. Like it is fine.
Hard to claim your identity if you don't. That's what I used to think, at least, and I know that's what a lot of people think. But like I said, I'm being nicer with myself about it now, like in most recent years and everything. But it is hard to claim an identity that you feel so detached from,
Yeah.
Like the only way we've been taught about what it means to be truly Palestinian is through our parents, our grandparents, etc. Which it's good. Like obviously, it's still like a good way of communicating that Palestinian message, but yeah, you feel like a phony in a way, for saying Palestinian. Yeah.
What is an expectation that was placed upon you?
I mean, this conversation is not new, but obviously growing up in the Middle East as a woman, there's a lot of expectations placed on you, on your sum'ah, and on the way you should be presenting yourself and the things that are okay or not okay to do in public, or things when it comes to like sexual liberation, or even just really expressing yourself, even if it doesn't have anything to do with sexuality. It can be perceived that way as a woman in general. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of expectations placed on me just to kind of be quiet, go under the radar, just be مؤدبة, so to say, like which sometimes really means like muting yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is something I feel every single one of us feels.
Oh no, for sure. Like as females in the Middle East, as Arab females, what's expected of us is, like, I feel like in our day and age is kind of ridiculous. Put aside like what we wear and what we do, it's also what we say and how we say it and what language we say it. And like personally, I've been attacked a lot of times because my Arabic isn't that great, and so there's this whole expectation with my family, like, oh, her Arabic is like, it's horrible, like there's something wrong, she needs to go do these lessons, she needs to do blah blah blah, then she, and there is a huge like pressure on our shoulders to be a certain type of woman to be accepted in society?
This is quite a deep question, but what about you feels hardest to love?
I guess the reassurance. I always need reassurance.
Mm-hmm.
I always need reassurance. That's what it is. Yeah. Like I self-doubt myself a lot, and I'm very self-critical. So I do feel like I need that like reassurance from people.
But that's not a bad thing, you know, it's one of the 5 languages of love, words of affirmation. Like a lot of people are in
Yeah.
this position.
But there's also the sense of I kind of like as a person, I don't think my whole life I feel like I change on a daily basis. I feel like as a person, I feel like I have an identity crisis. You know, like I know who I am to my core, like I know my values and my ethics. But other than that, like I just feel like I change a lot. I'm like jack of all trades but master of none, you know, like I don't know who I am. I don't know, like if I were to describe myself, I wouldn't know how. I don't know. Like that's the thing. And like how can your partner really know who you are if you don't even know who you are?
They
You know,
can.
so they can to the idea of you, but if you don't even know who you are, and like you know, you gotta love yourself 100%. No, I guess yeah, 100%.
Exactly. It comes
For
back to
someone to see,
self-love
yeah, I
because
guess so. Like maybe there's a huge lack of self-love because I keep trying to put myself in a box, like you know. So I guess that's the hardest part I think of for someone to love because like it's kind of
I
like
think you're confusing kind of because sometimes, I mean, humans in general, we're complex, you know? So all of us have a lot of different sides to us. But if you're lacking in the department of self-love, then obviously you're lacking when it comes to self-identification or self-understanding. So then, yes, it can be hard for someone to love you or understand you when you aren't even giving yourself that self-acceptance to love or understand yourselves and all the different parts.
exactly.
But I think for you, it's different. It's just, you know, these different sides of yourself, you acknowledge them, you accept them. It's just, yeah, you're a complex human, you know, you have a lot of different Hanas like living within
A
you.
lot. Like there's a lot of
That's
hennas. You know,
fine.
like
That's exciting, if anything. And
what about you? What do you think is what do you think is the hardest?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me this question in retaliation. I mean, I don't like the word restless because it has negative implications. I just think I'm always seeking excitement and thrill and adventure. So I think sometimes it can be a little hard for me to be completely stable. Um, so I think that is something that has impacted some of my relationships. You know what I mean?
You just like the thrill. You
Mm-hmm.
see, like it's so the person you end up with your partner being, like whoever your partner is in the future, will need to be a thrill seeker as well.
It's as simple as that, you know. It's not like I have commitment issues per se or anything. It's just, yeah, things need to be exciting for me. So I think sometimes it's hard to keep up with in a way.
Yeah.
But
Okay, I'm gonna ask you this question.
okay.
What have you learned from me that's changed your life for the better? I like this question. I like it.
Because I get to sing your praises.
Yes.
A lot of things for sure. Like, our friendship is so beautiful because we're very similar in a lot of things, like our core values and beliefs, and you know, kind of way of tackling things is very similar, or it's become more similar over the years. But in other things, we're quite opposite, and I think we've had that advantage because we've been able to teach one another so many things. I mean, perseverance, that's what you taught me, honestly. Perseverance and hard work, because I've known you since you were very young, and I always saw this part of you, this side of you, of just kind of like strength, you know. You've always been a
Yeah.
strong person, you've always persevered, but throughout the years I've watched that grow and flourish to a point where you're really kind of just a motivational speaker in a sense, you know what I mean? Like, you take on these challenges consistently. You're always taking on some sort of challenge and always testing yourself, and pushing yourself and pushing boundaries. And yeah, that's what you've taught me, that it's important to always challenge yourself and always persevere through whatever you may be feeling. Just, you know, test your limits. for no other reason than just to prove to yourself that you can do something. That's what you've taught me.
Oh.
What else?
Oh. Well, you know what you taught me?
What have
I
I
mean,
done?
so I would say I had a pretty closed mind growing up, like in the sense of like what I accepted and what I didn't in the world and societies or whatever it was. You really liberated my mind. You actually taught me how to really educate myself, if you get what I mean, by like reading, by really opening my mind to opportunities, by creating like these thrilling, you are a thrill seeker. By creating these like just out of nowhere activities, like let's just do it, like whatever, let's screw it. And like that's what you taught me. Like there was, the more I thought about things, I was just like, no, I'm gonna just do it. Like you taught me that. Like I wouldn't say it's impulsive thoughts, but like it would be
A little bit of spontaneity.
yeah, I'd say that. You brought a lot of fun into my life.
But changing the pace a little bit, how is our Palestinianness the same, and how is it different?
I feel like we're very similar with our Palestinianness, like very, very similar, especially since we grew up very similar contexts. And we've always been on the same boat with how we were as Palestinians. Like we always do talk about it, and we will, like, I personally, like, the more I started to learn about Palestine growing up, and kind of go to university or watching like documentaries or whatever it was, I always talk about it, and I educate people that are around me about the whole situation, and I feel like we're very outspoken about it. Like we don't we're very outspoken about it. So I think we have that huge similarity. And differences, I don't really, and similarities as well. We've never been to Palestine, so we're kind of on the same wavelength when it comes to how we identify ourselves as Palestinians. And how are we different? I don't know.
Maybe just that you have a closer relationship to your extended family. So you're able maybe to kind of sit down, and as I don't really have that, I may have had that in the past, but now for whatever reasons, I don't really have the access to that information or to those memories as easily as you do.
So I still have like a lot of family members that are still in Palestine and still do talk about it, and I'm very, I guess, like I know more in the sense of their living situations and how they are in Palestine than you would, because of how I'm close to my extended family in that sense.
So what's the best thing you've done for your mental health recently?
I've been going through like this healing journey. So I've been going to a lot of I don't even know what they're called, but like it was like in the desert, and there was like a lot of like triangle sitting, and like a lot of like, it was a very spiritual journey. So it was like a lot like getting into your subconscious and making it conscious. So I was doing a lot of that and a lot of meditation in the desert. Yeah, like when I was in Dubai, like it was kind of crazy. But yeah, basically making my subconscious conscious and working through that. So I guess that's the best thing I've done for my mental health, instead of like suppressing everything and running away from all these issues that like I face. I literally was like, okay, no, it's time to heal. Like it's time to put my head in the game and do it. Even though it hasn't been a fun journey, it's been a healing one. So like that's
for sure. You really have to accept all the pain and trauma and just everything in order to truly like make your peace with it and let it go, which is something I've also been learning in the past couple of years, I think, because before I was just kind of thinking that the way to heal from things or become a stronger person was to just essentially ignore them, which I see as ignoring at the time. I just thought, I'm being less sensitive, I'm not allowing things to get to me, but you have to allow things to get to you. You have to, like, in a way, truly respect the way that you deal with things, and deal with it to the fullest in order to truly like.
But you see, I think why and how we've actually come to this conclusion of like you need to face your demons basically is because growing up, if I cried, I'd get the remark of, why are you crying? Be stronger. And, you know, so it turns into a thing. It's like, oh, I shouldn't be crying. I shouldn't be angry about any of these stuff. I shouldn't even be sad about any of these stuff. So you start to suppress everything, and you're no longer outspoken about your emotions, and you end up suppressing them. And then the older you get, they start to creep up on you, and these traits that you never knew you even had just comes out, and you don't even know what it's linked to. So you actually have to go all the way to the start of everything, to the root of all your problems, to actually flourish and be a whole person, you know? So I feel like it's happened in my 20s, where I was like, no, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay. Like, maybe till this day, I'll even say, like, how many times have you ever seen me cry? Like, I will cry by myself in a bathroom and no one will know, you know? So, because I was taught as a kid, crying is for the weak. Blah, blah, it's for the weak. So when you want to heal, and your mental health just becomes worse and worse and worse with time. So when you do want to heal, oh, ho, ho, you're going to have to go back 20 years of healing, you know, like.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing as Palestinians. And I mean, I don't want to talk too much about it, but, you know, there is such a thing as generational trauma. And I
Yeah.
think as Palestinians, we just have this message ingrained in us, which is like perseverance, like strength of character, which is amazing, which I would never change about the message that my parents tried to give me. You know, I love that I grew up with these kinds of things being told to me and ingrained within me, but I do think that we bear the burden of generation upon generation of untapped trauma, you know? So the next question is a sort of two-part question, but what's a personality trait that you've inherited from your parents that you'd like to keep? And what's one that you'd like to let go of?
So one good thing I think I inherited a few good things from my dad. The way I am with the world. So I don't take the world seriously in that sense. Like, I don't, let's say I was in an airport and the flight got cancelled, I would just laugh about it. Or let's say I was stuck in customs, which it has happened. I literally sat on my suitcase and just started laughing, and the lady was just looking at me like, "Are you good?" I was sitting there for a good 3 hours not knowing what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is that I'm very resilient. So I'm very I'm just very resilient, and I'm a very hard worker. Like, when I want to get to my goal, I will get it. And I think I learned that through my dad, because he's an extremely hard worker. So I've always just looked up to him and always wanted to walk in his footsteps in that sense. So I never take any excuse to anything. Like, whatever obstacle comes my way, I'm just like, nope, this is just part of the journey. I'll go on it, continue on. You know, there's no stops for me. And I think I got that from him. Okay, so what have you learned about love through our relationship as friends?
A lot of things. It's changed throughout the years. I mean, I don't know. I think we both flourished into like quite eccentric personalities. So I think we both keep teaching one another. It's like a back and forth. We keep reminding one another that in love, you should never settle.
Yeah.
You should always aim to find someone who fully understands you and fully accepts you, rather than, you know, having to hide certain parts of yourself or mute certain parts of yourself. Yeah, I think we both teach each other that very valuable lesson.
Honestly, something this relationship has taught me is that unconditional love does exist. Honestly, like, we've been through hell and back together, and there is no, like, throughout everything, I always still loved you. You know, like, it wasn't like if I were to look at, like, no, but it's true. Like, you literally, anytime I'm like, honestly, unconditional love does not exist. And then I think of our relationship, I'm like, no, it does exist. It's just so rare, but it does exist. So you're literally the one, our relationship is what literally gives me hope that there is something called unconditional love, you know?
Honestly, though. I love being friends with you.
Me too.
Yeah, in terms of love and intimacy, how do you feel you're close to, and also how do you feel you're removed from your parents or your grandparents' ideas of this?
So when it comes to love and intimacy, I think it changed with every generation. So how my grandma sees it is, let's talk about like partnership, like who you're gonna get married to. Like, I've been asked, it's like, why, like, just if you found a nice guy, like, khalas, like you'll figure it out once you're married. You know, that's how they used to think about love and intimacy. Like it's something it will grow as you continue living together and while you're building a life. Okay. And then so that was my grandparents' generation, how they think of love and intimacy and partnerships. And then comes my parents' generation, where they think, no, you should get to know the person, you should see if you're compatible, and then eventually get married to them. But do get married. Like there is like, it's like, no, you need to get married. So that's what life is all about, basically. That's how they think of it. And then comes our generation, where I'm like, no, okay, I do agree. Like I do want to get married, but the way I see love and intimacy, the way I would choose my partner isn't through, like I'd have to get to know them in the sense of like, no, and okay, no, scratch that. I think it's a bit complicated. That's the thing. Like it's not, the way I see it is pretty complicated in the sense of our generation literally thinks that you have to be 110% compatible to this person before committing and doing whatever. So I have gone back and forth with how I thought about this. And my recent thoughts about this is, I don't think you need to be completely compatible with this person. I do think that it's a mix of what my parents believe and what my grandparents believe. I do think people our generation really just let loose with people really quickly. They don't even try. It's like, oh, they do this one thing that they didn't like, I'm gonna call peace out and just walk out. And it's like a new thing where people just ghost people. So this is like so that happens to a lot of people in our generation. So my belief is it's a mix of both. It's a mix of how my parents see it and how my grandparents see it. I do think you need to give it a chance and actually get married to this person and actually live with them, and the love will grow. But also, it's not first time I meet them, oh, I like how they look and they came from a good family, okay, let me marry them. You know, that's not like, that's my grandparents' perception. And my parents' perception is, no, you get to know them. You go on dates, you do whatever, you get to know them. So I'm kind of in a mix of both. Not a mix of both of where like I would meet someone and they come from, no. But in the sense of, we may not be completely compatible, but when you do get married, you will become compatible. You kind of start to camouflage each other. It's like you start to reflect on each other. Like,
I get what you're saying. I think there's this idea, this misconception that because we're in this age of, as I said before, like wellness, self-love, like, you know, like really tackling any kind of like psychological or mental downfalls that the generations before us didn't tackle, you know, there also comes this misconception that means that expecting perfection for yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Phrase this. It's like we're a generation where we have higher values for ourselves, and that does tie into self-love. The things that we accept into our lives, the things that we'll allow to accept for ourselves, especially when it comes to love, are just on a higher level in a way. We require more personalization, more understanding. You know, it's not just, okay, like I think our parents and our grandparents came from a generation where love and marriage and intimacy, all this kind of stuff is more based on convenience, especially Palestinians. I know you understand this. I know everyone who's going to be listening to this as a Palestinian will understand this. Our parents would prefer for us to be with Palestinian partners to kind of carry on this dying heritage. So yeah, it's more based on convenience than feelings or, you know, that kind of, you know, sad stuff, so to say. So for our generation, like we're not necessarily accepting that for ourselves, but I think we just have this false idea that we'll find the perfect partner. But humans by nature, by design, we're not perfect. You know, as individuals, we're not perfect. So that's something we have to understand, that since we are not perfect, there is no way to find a partner that is perfect. Like everybody is going to
exactly
with their downfalls and, you know, with their negative points, but it's just, you have to pick the person that is, you can tolerate these things about the most, you know?
I think it's more to do with the values, you know? It's like, if your values are aligned, you could learn to love other things that may not be in your favor, type of thing.
Sometimes you need perseverance. Again, this word, perseverance, but it's true, you know, we just don't have that in our generation. I find we don't we will not stand our ground and try to make things work. If something starts to show signs of fault, we'll automatically be like, nope, this thing doesn't serve me anymore. Let me just eradicate it from my life. Which we need to find a better balance within. We need to still be able to walk away from things better than the generations before us, I think.
Yeah.
We also need to be able to know how to hold things down and just kind of wait it out and, you know, try to build something, you know, because that's what relationships are. It's really building something.
What title would you give this chapter of your life?
I like the word metamorphosis, you know?
Yeah.
Because it implies like, I mean, it's your 20s, right? Like we're all in our 20s. God bless these 20 somethings. Like, yeah, we're all in a stage of evolution for sure. So yeah, that's what I would title my life right now. What about you?
Circling shit show.
Okay.
Circling shit show. But it's been good.
Cute. Why do you care to elaborate?
Because it has been a circling shit show. A lot of things have happened, good and bad. But it is what it is. A circling shit show. I just have to be ready for the next thing.
I like that. In like a self-help book, you know.
Oh, Nadisha, it was great talking to you.
It was amazing talking to you, and thank you, LIFTA, for giving us this opportunity to have a very easy flowing, very casual, but very loaded type of conversation with one another, which we do anyway.
Yeah, it was very natural to us.
But yeah, it's nice to have this space to sit and talk about these things and remind ourselves how we feel about certain things. So yeah, Anush.
So yeah. Okay. Bye.